Well, right now we're going to shift gears, and we are going to go to a regular guest of Jake's. This is Ted Murmagos, and he is the Director of Child Support Enforcement for the Division of Child Support Services in Delaware. Welcome, Ted.
Hi, MJ.
Ted, you know, the last time I filled in for Jake, it was quite some time ago, and we were in the middle of COVID. I noticed, I went to your website, and I wondered how you're adjusting things. I know that you were reaching out a lot online during COVID. Are you encouraging people to still take advantage of online services, or how are you shifting gears in terms of your outreach?
Yeah, so, we, about a month and a half ago, we kind of shifted a little bit, where prior, once we were kind of in the middle of the pandemic, we strongly encouraged folks to call our customer service unit and actually speak to a child support specialist. And then we would go ahead and, if necessary, schedule an appointment for them to come into our office to actually meet with somebody in person. That has changed. About a month ago, we have basically said, even though we're encouraging people to still call and speak to someone first, they don't have to. We have 3 offices statewide, and all of those offices are open for business, and someone would absolutely meet with anyone who came into our office to talk about their child support situation. Mm-hmm. We're still kind of encouraging people to call and see if they really do need to come in. But if they don't, and they just happen to show up at one of our offices, the doors are open, and someone is going to be available to meet with them in person to talk about their child support concerns.
Okay, great. I also noticed you have a YouTube channel. That sounds wonderful. I mean, people, video really resonates with people. Tell us about what you feature on that channel.
And MJ, thanks for asking about this, because it's something that we have just only started maybe about a year ago, and it's got a lot of traction. We have we're doing several things as it relates to the Division of Child Support Services here in Delaware and social media. What we're doing today by our monthly radio show with Jake and with you today, we have a monthly Facebook Live event, and if people want to find out how to tune in, they can just go to our Facebook page, to search out Delaware Division of Child Support Services. Mm-hmm. We have a monthly event. It's the first Monday of every month from 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. It's called the Child Support Connection. And we always encourage people to tune in and send questions. I do the event myself, and I love taking questions from the public on that Facebook Live event that we hold. And the radio show that we're doing today, that and that Child Support Connection, we take both of those events each month, and we post them to our YouTube channel. So people can actually listen to these conversations that we're having, and hear questions that are being asked by the public, and then the answers that are being provided. And hopefully that's helping them have a better understanding about child support here in Delaware. So, yeah, we actually are encouraging people to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we're always posting pieces of information that we think is valuable for people here in Delaware.
Oh, that's great. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Listen, Ted, we're going to get into some other topics, but right now we've got some weather. We also have some traffic on 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD, the talk of Delmarva. It's Out and About Wednesday. MJ Powell sitting in for Jake Smith. We are at Kim Benton State Farm in Millsboro. And talking to Ted Murmagos, the Director of Child Support Enforcement for the Division of Child Support Services in Delaware. Ted, you know, in an earlier segment, I was speaking with an expert in education, and she was making the point that boys learn differently from girls, and there are different learning styles. I was looking through the many programs that you offer with your Division of Child Support Services, and I noticed that you have a program for fathers, and I wonder if you could tell us a little about that.
Yeah, and MJ, this is also relatively a new program that we have at the Division of Child Support Services, and other child support agencies around the country they have similar programs, but in Delaware, our Delaware Fatherhood Program is kind of two-pronged. The first is we work closely with individuals who are incarcerated at level 4 facilities here in Delaware to provide them with information about the child support program and specifically to answer questions related to their specific child support situation. That goal is really to try and help educate those folks who may feel, because they're incarcerated, that they've kind of lost track of their child support situations. We want to make sure that we're educating them about the program and about how they can get back on track if their child support situation has gotten away from them and they want to kind of make an effort to start paying their child support again. Mm-hmm. The second part of the Delaware Fatherhood Program is about helping individuals find employment opportunities that will not only help them to pay their child support, but to help them become more self-sufficient. It's not just about like child support. We want people to find job opportunities that will help make them more self-sufficient. And paying their child support is only a part of that. But being able to find employment, to be able to find training that will make them more employable. So we have a relationship with a couple employment and training vendors who, if a non-custodial parent, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a male, it can be a female, just because it's called the Delaware Fatherhood Program. We'll accept anyone who wants to find better employment. Mm-hmm. And once they contact us and say they would like to be a part of the fatherhood program, we can refer them to those employment and training vendors who one of the first things they do when they start interacting with the person is to do an evaluation, do an assessment of the skills that they may have or interests that they would like to pursue, and they try to help them, find those avenues in the community and through relationships that those employment and training folks have with other entities in the community. So whether it's a referral to a GED program, or if they know employers who are already in the process of hiring and they think that they have a good fit, they can automatically refer that individual to an employer for an interview and possibly helping them to become employed by that company. So the second piece of it is really about employment and training, trying to help people find employment opportunities that will make them more employable. The other thing about that employment and services part of the fatherhood program is that if someone is participating in our fatherhood program, we can take certain actions to maybe hold off on some enforcement tools. So if they if we were looking at a case to be going back to family court for contempt of an order for non-payment, we may say to the non-custodial parent, if you're actively working with our Delaware Fatherhood Program staff and the employment and training vendor, we will hold off on filing that petition at family court, or we'll hold off on suspending your driver's license and work with that parent to help them become a participant in the fatherhood program and hopefully get them on the right track to start making payments again.
Oh, yeah, that's great. It's so positive. And what is the, how many generally are active in that program at any given time?
Yeah, at any given time, there's around 150 to 200 non-custodial parents that are actively that have been referred to the fatherhood program, and who we have worked with employment and training vendors to help find better employment opportunities. Now, as you probably suspect, sometimes the referral is the first step, but then and maybe they go to one or two meetings with the employment and training staff person, and then they fall off, and then we just have to pick up those enforcement tools and start the process over. But when we talk about original referrals to our program, there's about 150 to 200 folks actively working with the child support program.
I see. Well, that's pretty good. I mean, that's been in existence for quite a while now.
Yeah, it's been about maybe about 3 or 4 years, and there's been various reiterations of the program. We've made some tweaks along the way to try to make it more workable for non-custodial parents, to try to help gain their trust in the process, and the fact that we want to be able to be a partner in trying to help them find employment opportunities. In Delaware, we also work closely with the Department of Labor, and we at Child Support receive practically daily, MJ, 3 or 4 notices from the Department of Labor about employers who are hiring in the state, and we post that information to our website and our Facebook page to try and promote those employers who are looking. And in Delaware, we hear, as you probably know, I mean, there are employers who are actively hiring and in need of people who want to work. So we're trying to match those people up with employers and the non-custodial parents to hopefully help them find employment opportunities.
Oh, that's great. Okay, we are listening to Ted Murmagos. He's director of the Division of Child Support Services in Delaware. And when we come back, we'll open up the phone lines if you have questions, because I know Ted is great with the outreach. Right now, we're going to go to news, and we have sports for you on 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD, the talk of Delmarva. And we are going to return to Ted Murmagos, who's the director of the Division of Child Support Services for Delaware. Welcome back, Ted.
Hello, MJ.
I guess what I should do is let our audience know that Ted is great at answering your calls, too, if you want to call in. So it's 945-9292, 945-9292. And, Ted, I know you know this, that Jake often gets email from people because they listen to your show, and they will reach out to him and ask him to forward something to you. So here's an email that was sent to Jake. I'll read it to you, and hopefully you'll have some advice. This man says his name is, and he's been having child support issues. He has several different child support cases, and now that he's been working on his job for several months, the state of Delaware has been deducting more than half of his paycheck every week for child support. So currently he says he's caring for a couple of his kids. He's back up on his rent, currently facing eviction, and he doesn't really feel he has enough money to cover his daily living expenses. So he says it's been 2 months, if not close to 3, since he's gone to family court, and he put in petitions to lower his payments, or he wants to make some sort of payment arrangement, but he says at times he gets discouraged wanting to quit and give up. He doesn't hear back, he says, from the courts in regard to his case. So he wants to make a change in his life, and he's wondering if there's anything you could do to help him with that situation.
Yeah, and MJ, there's some good things about his email, and there's some things that are obviously that are troubling, and let's talk about the good things first. And I'm always glad to hear that someone wants to make a change, wants to kind of start getting things back on track. But I mean, I certainly can understand some of the negative things that he's going through right now when an employer is deducting child support from his salary, and it does seem like a lot is coming out in order to meet his obligation. So, and the other thing that I like to hear that he's mentioning is the fact that he's already taken that step to go to family court and seek some modification. So he's got income, He sees that, I don't have enough to live on and pay my child support. I need to go and do something about that. And he's done that. That's the best thing he could possibly do, is get into family court and file those petitions for modification. And my suggestion would be for him to continue to periodically check with the family court on the status of where those petitions are in the scheduling process. And I'm certainly, Jake forwarded this gentleman's email to me. I'm certainly going to I took a look at it this morning before I called in, and I'm going to write him back and give him some direct information on what we may be able to find out from the family court as it relates to scheduling his petitions for a hearing. I can also tell you this, MJ, employers, and I've said this before, employers are a huge stakeholder in the child support arena. We count on them quite significantly to send deductions from individuals' paychecks to child support so we can forward them on to custodial parents. About 75% of all child support we receive in Delaware comes from an employer who has made deductions to an employee's paycheck and has sent them to the child support office. So they are a huge, huge stakeholder in the child support world. The employers, when an employee doesn't make enough to cover the full total child support obligation, the employer can send in a percentage, and that's on those orders of income withholding that we send to employers. Employers can send in a percentage up to 65% of someone's income if they don't make enough to cover that obligation. In lieu of the full amount, they can send in a percentage up to 65%. And I certainly get it. Yeah, I certainly get it. And I can hear from your expression, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of percentage of someone's income.
It is.
But under the law, that's something that the employer is obligated to do. But I'm glad to hear that this... Go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I was glad to hear that this gentleman has filed those petitions at family court. And I'm going to respond to him this morning and hopefully be able to find out what the status of those petitions are and get back to him with that information. But if this is just a general rule for any individual who has filed something at family court. If you feel like you're waiting too long to hear on the status of that filing, you could always check with the family court and see what the status of it is. They should be able to tell you whether it's been scheduled or not.
And that's what I was going to ask you, because do you have a time frame? I mean, maybe people have an unrealistic expectation of the speed, with which the court processes things. I mean, what can a person expect time-wise?
Yeah, and it differs, MJ, between the counties. In Newcastle County, it may take a little bit longer. I can't really answer that question. And that's really kind of because it really falls under the court case processing activities and not really the child support program. But certainly if the other thing that's important is to always make sure you have your most updated address with the family court, because they're going to send notices to you by mail. And if they don't have your most current address, it might be going to an old address and that kind of thing. So you always want to make sure your address is up to date, not only with child support, but with the family court. But
and you mentioned that he can check. You said if you feel that things aren't moving along, you encourage people to check with the court. How would they go about that? Can they do that online, or should they phone?
Yeah, they can phone the whatever family court they filed the documents in. They could call that court or go to the court in person and speak to somebody in their pro se office. It's also called the resource office, and those folks should be able to tell them by looking into the family court's computer system what the status of any kind of a filing may be, or the clerk of the court could help them also.
Okay. Yeah, because I guess he was frustrated. He felt that he wasn't hearing back, but maybe he needed to take a little bit more initiative too and reach out that way.
And I'm going to take a look. We have access to various computer databases too. So I'm going to have the child support specialist take a look and see if they can tell me what the status of those filings may be. And I'm going to respond back to this gentleman in writing too.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you so much. So I just want to let people know you are welcome to call in. We're going to go to traffic and weather now, but when we come back, I'll just give you the number now. It is 945-9292, 945-9292 if you have a question for Ted Myrmagos. Traffic and weather on 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD, the talk of Delmarva. It's Out and About Wednesday, and we are at Kim Benton State Farm in Millsboro. And joining us is Ted Myrmagos, Director of the Division of Child Support Services for Delaware. Welcome back, Ted.
Thank you,
I was thinking a lot of people say that they have trouble. I'm thinking of, again, it's not always the woman, but often a mother says she's not getting her support payments. Maybe she's actually lost track of the father. So in that case, how do you go about intervening?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that is often, one of the biggest problems within the child support program is being able to successfully locate non-custodial parents. I mean, we certainly have locate tools, not only from a state level, but from a federal level. We're interfacing with, Social Security Administration, various federal agencies, as well as local agencies like our court system, our prison system, the Division of Motor Vehicles. So we have a lot of locate tools, but I mean it's still it can still be problematic when non-custodial parents kind of go off the grid a little bit for us to try and nail down an exact location of where they may be living. So locate and locating non-custodial parents is a big problem sometimes to helping custodial parents get the child support that they deserve.
Yeah, that's got to be a frustrating process. Absolutely,
it can be.
Yeah.
Can be.
Wow. So what are, tell us about some of the other services that people may not be aware of that you offer.
Yeah. And since the last time that I was on with Jake last month, there was a couple of emails that we received, similar emails. So, and both of them were, both of the custodial parents were asking about how to apply for child support services. So I was able to respond to both of them with links to our website. On our website, we have child support applications that a person can download and fill out at home, and then return to one of our child support offices, and we would go ahead and open up a child support case. Mm-hmm. So, I always like to remind folks that if they think that they need child support, you could certainly come to one of our child support offices. You can call our customer service unit, and I'm going to give you the phone number. It's area code 302-577-7171, and ask that an application be sent to you. Or you could just go to our website and make a copy of it, fill it out, and return it to our office, and we go ahead and open that child support case. So other services that we offer, we have a bunch of enforcement tools. Now, one of the things I always like to mention when we talk about enforcement of how we, are enforcing the child support orders, is that no enforcement tool fits every case perfectly. Some enforcement tools work better on certain situations. For instance, we talk from time to time about our state and federal tax refund intercept program. So if someone files their taxes and they're due a refund and they owe child support arrears, we will intercept those refunds to pay off the child support arrears, whether it's through the state's Division of Revenue or the federal IRS. We will, if they go ahead and file, we will intercept it. The key there, MJ, is that if they don't file a tax, they don't file their taxes, or if they're not going to get a refund, that enforcement tool won't work. We can deny somebody a passport, but if someone never applies to get a passport, that tool is not going to work. That enforcement tool is not going to work on that particular case. So we have the ability to place all of these various enforcement tools. We have, in our toolkit. But we can put all of those enforcement tools on all of the cases, but it requires certain actions by others in order for that enforcement tool to work. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hit or miss, but it's always good to have the ability to place that enforcement tool on it, just in case someone decides, hey, this is the year I'm finally going to file my taxes, and sometimes. When we intercept someone's tax refund, in the beginning they're a little upset that we've intercepted $4,000 or $5,000 to be applied towards their arrears. But when we have a conversation with them about, hey, you owe $10,000 and now you only owe $5,000, they kind of see it in a more of a positive reflection. That hey, that does make a big hit on those arrears that I owe, and maybe I can kind of get ahead of it and start making some payments to get those arrears paid down.
Absolutely. There is something else that it's so important, I guess, and that's establishing paternity, right? Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you can, just for people who maybe haven't done that or haven't paid attention to that, how do they go about establishing paternity?
Establishing paternity is probably one of the most important things parents can do for their children, because it has such long-lasting effects. When you establish paternity for your child, there's a whole bunch of things that happen, and it's like everything from like Social Security benefits, if one of the parents passes away, being paid to that child, to medical histories, to in some cases retirement benefits from parents being paid to their descendants. So paternity establishment is where a child who's been born out of wedlock needs to have, their parents need to either have genetic testing done, or they can sign a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity to establish paternity for their child. If a couple is married at the time the child is born, paternity is automatically established for that child, and the Office of Vital Statistics will add both parents' names to the birth certificate. But it's only those children that are born out of wedlock where, they could get genetic testing. They can contact the Child Support Office. We can help them do that. Or they can basically fill out a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity form, have it notarized and filed with the Office of Vital Statistics. And Vital Statistics will automatically update that child's birth certificate with both parents' names on it. And MJ, one last thing about paternity establishment that I thought would be really important to mention. This past legislative session, which ended on June 30th, the Child Support Program had, with the help of Representative Griffith and Senator Gay, has had some legislation passed that would no longer allow a minor, someone under the age of 18, to sign a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. And we're currently waiting for the governor to sign that piece of legislation to put it into law. And once that's done, we're gonna make sure that any minor who becomes a parent, with the help of the Child Support Program, gets genetic testing to prove paternity for that child that may be born out of wedlock. So we're very happy to have been able to move that bill through the legislative process, and we're really excited for the governor to sign it and let us go ahead and help minors. It doesn't affect, MJ, it's probably important to say, it doesn't affect a whole lot of families. In the first 5 months of 2022, there was only 8 minors who became parents. So we're looking at probably under 20 a year that we would help through the genetic testing process. but it's something that we thought was important to get done, and we're grateful for the legislature to help us do that.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Great to hear about that. We just have a couple of minutes left. I just wanted to ask you if you could just touch on one topic, and medical support, because parents are obligated, right? They've got to have some sort of health insurance for the child. And whose responsibility is that? Do both parents come into play there? How does that work?
So that's a great question, MJ. And so whenever the parties go into family court and a child support order is created, the courts will, in most cases, also address medical insurance coverage, and not only who's going to be responsible to make sure that medical insurance, when it's available at an employer, that the children are required to be enrolled in that medical insurance program, but they also determine at what rate each parent is going to be responsible to pay any medical bills. So the court orders may say that the custodial parent's going to be responsible for the first $350 of medical insurance, medical bills that are due, and then after that, the parties may be required to split any other bills 50-50. So custodial parents are required in most cases to make sure that the non-custodial parent knows exactly how much of the outstanding bills they're required to pay, and they're really required to work together on making sure those medical bills are paid in full and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. When a non-custodial parent fails to meet their obligation, custodial parents can let us know at the child support office, and we have forms that they would be required to fill out, and we could file in family court basically a petition that says the non-custodial parent, after being duly noticed, has failed to meet their medical portion of the court order, and the courts can say, non-custodial parent, you're now going to be required to pay an additional amount of money each month through the child support office to make sure the custodial parent gets her reimbursed portion of the medical insurance.
Wow.
So
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It is addressed in court orders. Every court order that comes out of family court will address medical insurance.
Thanks for sharing so much information in a short amount of time. Really appreciate it, Ted. Coming up, we have Fox News and sports on 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD, the talk of Delmarva.